Yeah. Surprise, a little different than you're used to. Yeah. Dropping these bars on YouTube, knowledge I introduce you. Yeah. We chasing this money like it's the prize, it's the voodoo. Fugazi, fugazi, it's just a lie we buying into. We need some cars on deck. Get the rollies, get the Moe, all the Mars on deck.
All right, good evening. Thank you for waiting. I'm a few minutes late. We're going to talk a little bit about Tesla this evening. I've not touched on this topic for a while, and so it's nice to be able to get back to some investment content. If you listen to the podcast on yesterday, Monday, we kind of mentioned Tesla on that episode as well. I have to give you a pre-warning. I have no idea what's going on, but as I speak right now, if I start clicking things are taking ages, so much so that I've had to kibosh this laptop and I'm waiting for a new one to arrive. So if I freeze at any point during this stream, I apologize. I have no idea what's going on with my laptop. It feels like it's just done this over the past week or so, and I've had to embark on a major upgrade, which will be arriving in a couple of weeks. So please do bear with me. If you do get value from this, make sure you do smash the like button and also consider subscribing as well. Look, this is the question, right? This right here is the question. Now, I do have a poll in the chat. Let me know, because I want to know, what do you think the future holds for Tesla? Do you think that they're going to lose market share, or do you think they're going to continue to dominate? The voting right now is very, very interesting, but I will bring this poll back in a little bit later on. But for now, let's talk a little bit about some context, because 3 or 4 days ago, I feel like it was three, maybe it might have been maybe 5 days ago, Tesla announced the new Model 3. Now, those of you who have been with me for a while on the channel, you'll know I am a massive Tesla fan. I've had my Model S for it's going on 9 years now. It's still going strong. It's 175,000 miles. I've had no issues with it. It's a really great product. And so much so that the car got me into actually the stock, which I still hold across my index fund and ETF investments, and also as an individual stock holding as well. And so I'm very, very enthusiastic about Tesla. They have their issues, don't get me wrong, and I can definitely speak about that from a owner's point of view as well, because they're not always great, okay? But the car and the product are great. And what they did last week, or at least recently, 3-4 days ago, they announced a refresh to the Model 3. Now, if you've been following the Tesla journey, it all started out with the Model S, which is the one that I have, and the Model X came along very, very shortly after. In fact, actually, they produced the Roadster as the very, very first model before the Model S and the X. But the plan for the company has always been to grow into a proper automotive company with a number of varying models, like, the BMWs and all the big manufacturers of this world. And over the past, I would say maybe 3 years or so, they've really taken massive strides with the Model Y and the Model 3. Now, the Model 3 was pretty good anyway. I've got friends who've got the Model 3. I've driven a Model 3. It's smaller than the Model S, but it's comfortable. It's a great car. The tech is awesome. And they've just improved that. Now, bearing in mind that this announcement only came out a few days ago, there's been mixed reactions to the vehicle. And some of it led by the fact that Tesla have had to have cut costs recently, and they've cut costs to the top line of their offering, the Model S and the Model X. And this is what I want to talk about a little bit here, because it feels as though it's one of the big contributing factors to there being this narrative that Tesla are not going to be able to compete or be able to sustain their market position over the long term. That seems to be the narrative that I'm hearing right now from analysts and from people just generally speaking. And I'm not here to advocate and try and influence whether you should go and buy Tesla or not. We're simply going to have a conversation around this specific point. Now, I do want to share my screen, but I realize that I'm a little frozen right now. So bear me 1 second whilst I just source the article that I want to have a look at, because the Model S and the Model X have been slashed by about 15 to 19%. Now, obviously, they are the most expensive they're top of the line, right? I mean, yes, they've got the Roadster, well, the new Roadster, which is delayed. They've got the Cybertruck, which is also delayed. Although, watching something from Elon earlier this week, he's saying that they're going to start delivering the Cybertruck later on this year, beginning of next year. But essentially, let me just see if I can actually just share this with you right here. This is an interesting article on the situation that we're finding at the moment with the Model S and the Model Y. So by nearly 20%. And if you have a look at the prices of the Model S's and the Model S's, this is a pretty big cut, a really, really, really big cut, because these cars are generally quite expensive. It says here, the Tesla Model S and Model X vehicles have already received 2 substantial price cuts throughout this year alone. But now there's another one to entice consumers hesitant to jump onto the EV train. So Tesla has cut these cars by 15 to 20% starting today. And this article came out on the 1st of September, which was 4 days ago. So shortly after they announced the Model 3 refresh. Now they're saying here, as of today, the Model S, the base price for it is starting at $74,000. Now, that is quite a big reduction on where it was before. It's about $3,500 from its previous price. If you go back even further, you'll find that actually, I think the base models of the Model S were starting at around about, I think it was about 85,000, roughly around about there. And they've also got rid of some of the one of the variations, the long range as the standard range from the model. And the Model X here is now down to 79,990, which is an £8,500 reduction altogether. And one of the things that they have done, which is great, is before, where you had to pay additional money to get red or to get a particular color paintwork treatment, they've done away with that as well. So not only have they reduced the price, they've also included in additional paintwork. Now, people are looking at this and saying, well, actually, this could be bad news for Tesla. What kind of picture does it actually paint for Tesla? And I think it's really important for us to talk about this, but also talk about this from a different perspective. Because one of the things that stands Tesla out, and let me just go full screen on this. One of the things that stands Tesla out amongst its competition is the fact that Tesla, for the past, probably for the past seven or so years, have been obsessed about getting vertically integrated. Now, what does that actually mean? It means having all of the manufacturing procedures and steps in-house. So it's not outsourced to another group of suppliers or manufacturers, which is traditionally what would happen in the car industry. You would outsource components to different manufacturers. You would outsource different parts of the build to different people. And because Tesla is a software company first, I mean, they're a software company, but they make cars, and the car is based on software. Vertical integration has worked for Tesla in a very, very interesting way, in the fact that now the vertical integration that they have gained has put them in a position of having a strategic advantage over some of the competition. And I do want to play this clip for you, because there is a clip of the boss of Ford. So, and he's talking about the fact that vertical integration and having that is a huge advantage to Tesla. And he talks about how essentially contracting components, certainly in this new age of EV vehicles, where everything's not necessarily hardware, there is a large software component to it, has them really pedaling backwards and not being in a position where they can really compete. Now, hopefully this works. So let's give this a go. And I apologize again if this is freezing. It's very, very frustrating. Believe me, it's doing my head in. So hopefully you can just bear with me. So let's just play this and see what the head of Ford, the CEO of Ford, has
to say. Probably $500 a vehicle, or let's say 350 quid a vehicle.
Yeah.
We farmed out all the modules that control the vehicles to our suppliers, because we could bid them against each other. So Bosch would do the body control module, someone else would do the seat control module, someone else would do the engine control module.
Right.
And we'd have about 150 of these modules of semiconductors all through the car. The problem is the software are all written by, 150 different companies, and they don't talk to each other.
Right.
And so even though it says Ford on the front,
Yeah.
I actually have to go to Bosch to get permission to change their seat control software. It's actually their IP. And I have 150, we call it the loose confederation of software providers, 150 completely different software programming languages. All the structure of the software is different. It's millions of code, and we can't even understand it all. That's why
Right, let me just pause it right there. And he was going to go on to say that that's why at Ford, that's one of the issues that they're basically facing. The fact that they have to outsource all of these components to different suppliers across different locations, and none of them speak to each other. And when you're building something which is heavily software led, like Tesla has started to do and has pioneered with their cars, that is problematic for them. Now, in the automotive space, Tesla has most definitely been a very, very difficult, well, I wouldn't say difficult, but a disrupting force in terms
With
of
Asana,
they've decided
it's
to
easy
do.
to monitor projects across teams and track status and progress at a glance. So you and your team.
They've tried to do things. Apologies. I've got a lag. This is what I'm saying. I press a button and I've got a lag right now, and I cannot wait for the new the computer to arrive. It's really, really annoying. Anyway, hopefully you're still with me. Tesla have been disrupted effectively, and Elon, when he first started this out, he was on record to say, "Look, we have no idea what we're doing." But he had a really good idea that he wanted it to be software led, and so where Ford and a lot of the competition find themselves is in the traditional automotive space, you would farm out these components to different suppliers, and because they were hardware based, it didn't matter if the components didn't necessarily speak to each other on a software level. Now in the EV space, that is almost a necessity. You need to be able to speak to each other. Now, when you start thinking about Tesla, they are vertically integrated now. So all of the systems that build the vehicles are owned by Tesla. And that leads to something that is very, very interesting, which I actually want to show you guys when you start looking at their Q2 or Q2 numbers. Let me just find the tab for you very, very quickly, because it's very, very interesting and very, very telling when you start to have a look at these numbers. And when we look at these numbers, it is also worthwhile just bearing in mind and asking yourself, and maybe this is something you can tell me in the chat, what do you think the typical margin for a traditional automotive company is in the automotive industry? I'll show you what Teslas are in a moment once this delay has stopped killing me and stop killing the stream. Right, bear me 1 second whilst I try and get this up so I can actually share this with you, because the numbers are very, very interesting. And we will talk a little bit about the actual numbers for Tesla in terms of the delivery numbers for them, because the delivery numbers are very, very, very insightful and very, very interesting indeed. Right, so let's add this on, and let me come here. I'm trying, guys. I really, really am. So this is the financial summary. This is for the Q2 this year, 2023. Now, look at the revenues. Now, obviously, revenues are very, very important, right? Because this is money that they are actually bringing into the company, and that translates into profit. If you don't have revenue, there's no way you're going to be able to build profits at all. And what you want to see, typically in a company, is that you're able to see a positive trend all the way through. Now, total automotive revenue, you can see here, going back to 2022 here, 14.6 billion, 18.6. So it's growing. Q2 of 2023, 21. So they're 46% up year on year from where they were last year. Then you start going down to this line right here, which is total gap. So this is profit, which is before you start thinking about, which is less the cost of revenue, so the cost of them doing business. Look at this. So 25% in Q2. Now it has kind of come down in this quarter right here, and that's probably because they may have had, I don't know what's happened there. Maybe they didn't meet their numbers, but look at this number, 18.2%, extremely healthy. Now, when you think about this from a business point of view, and bearing in mind they did have price cuts, right? If you are concerned that you are pioneering in a particular field and there's lots of competition that is coming into the market and you're competing for market share, being vertically integrated adds a very specific benefit to you, because when your profit margin is this large, they can afford to be able to introduce a 3-5% reduction to the cost of a car, even 15 to 90% reduction to the cost of the car, because they have that in margin. And that's one of the big things that I feel like people are missing when it comes to Tesla right here. The vertical integration that they have is really what allows for all of this. Now, when you start going to have a look at, operating margins right here, your 9.6. So again, this is now taken into consideration operating expenses, right? And obviously the numbers after EBITDA, which is expenses, it's also before interest and tax. These numbers are not actually too bad. And when you compare them to any other company, I believe that they will actually stand out quite significantly when you do an actual comparison. But there was one thing that I saw, that I noticed when I was looking through this a little bit earlier on, which was really, really interesting. Start to have a look at the production numbers here and the delivery numbers. So bearing in mind, they started out and their top line, the most luxurious line of vehicles are the Model S's and the Model X's. Elon knew very, very early on that the Model S and the Model X were never going to get them to, market saturation. It was all about the Model 3 and it was all about the Model Y. Just look at these numbers. So Q2 2022, 242,169. Look at where they are right now. 460,211 vehicles. So 90% growth year on year. I think looking at the numbers for the Model Y, they have sold 2 million, of the Model 3, 2 million cars on the Model 3, bestseller the world over. And they've just improved that car and they've not increased the price at all. Talk about market share. This right here is unheard of. Then you start having to look at the actual delivery numbers right here, not too far off actually from the production numbers here, right? So you look at the total deliveries, and this is literally just for Q2, up until Q2 2023, 466,140 cars. So what we're looking at here is we're looking at a company that has a real momentum, and you can start to see vehicle capacity across all of the regions and the manufacturing facilities that they have. And look at Shanghai. Look at China. Jesus Christ, pumping out a lot of vehicles in terms of the production and stuff like that. It's pretty incredible when you start to look at these numbers right here. Now, does this mean that it's all rosy? No, not really. There isn't. It doesn't mean that it's all rosy. Do they still have competition? Absolutely. They are going to have competition, and they do have competition coming through. But how much of a market share really can the competition gain on Tesla at this point in time? And I think when you start to have a look at, and this is another interesting thing that I do want to show you actually, and let me just put this up on screen if it works. I'm just going to take a pause whilst this actually catches up. Again, if you are here, thank you for bearing me through this, because it's frustrated me. So I'm sure that it's frustrating you as well. Bear with me whilst I get this catches up with itself. This is going to be fixed in a couple of weeks. My new unit actually arrives between the 15th and the 19th of September. So it's going to be a brand new unit. I expect it to be way, way, way more powerful than what is actually required. But let's have a look at the numbers here. So this is global production of cars, right? And just have a look at these numbers right here. So look at 2022. So this is the Model 3 and the Model Y alone, standalone. 1.2 million. Now, the target for 2022, I believe, was 1.4 million cars. So they missed it slightly, but 1.2 million. just in the Model 3, the Model Y. They were kind of a little bit closer to their 1.4 million when you look at the combination of the Model 3, the Model Y, the Model S, and the Model X's. But really, this is where you're seeing the scaling of their business and the scaling of their growth. It's right here. And if you want to ask, well, how does this actually compare to other brands, maybe like an Audi, for example? Well, when this page is caught up, you'll be able to see a very, very clear comparison of how their numbers compare to the likes of Audi when you start to have a look at, worldwide reach specifically. Let me just share this one with you. So this is Audi sales in major global markets per large country in 2022. So globally, they did 1.6 million, just over 1.6 million cars. Tesla, with the Model Y, the Model 3 and the Model Y did 1.3. This tells you how much of a march they have right now and benefits of being first movers in what seems to be a huge transition over into EV and people actually buying into the idea of EV. Now, I think there is a huge issue, and I do have my gripes with Tesla. I love the car. Trust me, it's amazing. And if you drive one, you probably feel the same as well. However, there are issues. And I can say this from someone who's had this thing since 2015, roughly. 15? Yeah, about 2015. I've had my car for. Beautiful car, cruddy customer service. Like cruddy customer services. Really, really bad. I mean, recently, this past week or so, past week and a half, I've had an issue with them. Cruddy customer services. Can you speak to a person? Oh, good luck. Can you have a conversation with a person? Good luck. And they need to get that right, because I think that one of the advantages that the legacy automotive manufacturers are going to have over them is the fact that they have a lot of experience and they do have the ability to create better built cars. I mean, my car, it's very early in their development. So there are panel gaps, all sorts of stuff. The newer ones are a lot more solid. The materials are a lot more premium now. It's put together a lot better. But I feel as though the legacy automotive companies still have that benefit of building a better car, a better feeling quality car, and better customer service. I truly believe that. And the other thing which I think Elon, I hope that he's got this right, time will tell, I suppose, is he's opened up the Supercharger Network to other brands. And whilst you can argue that effectively means that more people get to use and buy EVs, which is great, it was your one strategic advantage that I think gave you the march on others. If I had to buy another electric car right now because my one just stopped working today, would I go and buy another Tesla? I'm not entirely sure at this point, especially given my experience last week dealing with customer services. I would probably, or at least I would be tempted to go with an alternative provider, assuming I could use the Supercharger network. And so I think they've got competition. But when you look at all of the indicators around their growth, I mean, look, you can't make those numbers up. And they're doing a great job. And they've just refreshed one of their most popular, their most popular model. They've just refreshed it, made it better, and they're not charging any extra money for it. It's the same price. There is no, I mean, if you compare for someone who just drives around and just needs functionality, you don't get better functionality and tech than what you have in a Tesla. You just don't. And even if I went to another brand, I'd have to settle with the fact that the experience, the software, the ease of the use of the car wouldn't be as smooth or as thoughtless as it is with Tesla. And that's one of the things that they've done very, very well. It's very, very intuitive. It is so easy to use. It's a bit of a jump going from an ICE into an EV. But once you're there, it feels like normal very, very quickly. And then the gadgets and the tech, they just they provide this extra level of this is something new. And for a lot of people, once you get there, it's hard to go back the opposite way. And that's where I feel some of the legacy automotive manufacturers are going to struggle. It's the way it makes you feel, it's the ease of use, it's how thoughtless it is. But the company at the moment, in terms of Tesla, they have their challenges. And so, look, when you start looking at their numbers, after, interest and tax, I'm just saying it's not great numbers. I would say they're still great numbers in comparison to the others. They're still, growing their earnings per share, which is one of the key metrics you're going to look at if you're investing right now. And, they're growing at what, 25% right now. So look, this isn't a go buy Tesla right now, but I'll be interested to see what the polls are saying. Let me see what you guys are saying. Let me just end this right now. If I can click on it, and it gives me the option to do that. Still waiting for it to catch up. This is painful. This is so painful. Come on, let me end the poll, please. Let me just let me bring it in here. Cooperate with me. I'll get into your comments here in a moment. Oh my Lord. Well, at the moment, 61% of you are saying that you think they will dominate moving forward. 62% of you think that they will dominate moving forward. Now it's giving me the option to end poll. So what are you saying? What are you saying? Yeah, so 62% of you say that they will dominate. 37% of you say that they are under threat. I think they're definitely under threat, but I do think that they're going to dominate moving forward. I think they have too much of a head start over everyone else. And the fact that they're vertically integrated, that is a huge, huge beneficial factor in their favor. Margins of normal cars, and we looked at their profit margins there, 18%. For most traditional automotive manufacturers, it's around about 5%. 5% is not a lot. It's a razor thin. So when you think about in the future, when maybe another economic crisis comes along and people are tightening their belts and they're not necessarily going out to buy cars anymore, Tesla has the flexibility to say, look, we can cut the price of the cars, a couple $1,000, entice people to basically buy, which is kind of what they're doing right now. It'd be very, very interesting. Let's have a look at what you guys are saying in the comments before I go on to this. Megs, how you doing? Yes. So someone's asking here. So can anyone become a millionaire with equity crowdfunding, and how much money can they invest in crowdfunding? Well, you can put. I think if you're going into crowdfunding thinking you're going to be a millionaire, mate, I think that's the wrong approach to have. Crowdfunding is extremely risky because the kind of companies that you're investing in, yes, they might be going, but they are still startups. So most businesses fail in the first 4 to 5 years. So yes, you can make a lot of money, but if you're thinking that's a way for you to be a millionaire, I think you're looking at that completely wrong, mate, really, to be honest. A lot of the time when you're crowdfunding, how much money you can put in will depend on what the offer is for the company that you're looking to put money into. So I get the sentiment of the question, but I think the motivations around that are wrong. There are huge risks when you're crowdfunding, huge risks. And sometimes you need to also be mindful of looking at the terms and conditions of what you're going into when you're crowdfunding, because some of them will have stipulations. I've certainly seen some where you put your money in and you cannot get it out until the point that they maybe do an IPO where they list on the stock market. And until then, you get nothing. And even when they do IPO, your class of shares don't give you preferential, can't say that word. Anyway, you know what I mean? They don't give you you're not the first to be paid when that happens, right? And some of them, I've seen one where the stipulation was we have to float on the market at X valuation, meaning if you don't hit that valuation, you get nothing. So I think you kind of do need to know what you're doing with it. Not saying you can't become a millionaire, but if the motivation is to become a millionaire, I think it's the wrong motivation, personally. But that's just my view. Naeem, good to see you here, buddy. Thank you very much. You are saying here, wait another 6 months and you'll get a Tesla for 30,000. They are producing they're working on new products right now. And this is one of the exciting things about Tesla, is the fact that if you look at the suite of their products, you've got the Model S, the Model Y, the Model 3, the Model X. You've got 4 vehicles right there. You've still got the Cybertruck to come. You've still got the new Roadster to come. You've still got smaller versions of maybe the Model 3 and the Model Y to come as well. There is a lot of potential in terms of product development that they're actively working on right now. And so once they start really tapping into new product sets, I mean, they're working on a project called Optimus right now, which is all about robotics and stuff. Elon being Elon, he's freaking crazy, right? But he's working on things like that, which God knows where that's going to be applicable. But he's not piling millions and millions into it if there isn't a application for it. So those things are exciting. When you also think about Tesla, other avenues, other sources of revenue in that business are also now generating profit, whereas before they weren't. And so it is a very, very promising prospect. But with Tesla, it's always been very, 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 very volatile, and it's been a bumpy ride. And it's very, very easy if you buy into Tesla and all of a sudden be thinking, hang on a second, this isn't for me. I certainly have found people who have been like that, be like, I like the idea of the company, I like what they're doing, I definitely want to buy into this kind of company. But really, you've got to have the stomach for it, which is why I hold only a little bit of money in my individual holding of Tesla. I've only got a small portion compared to my overall investment. Yes, I've got index funds and ETFs that are going to hold Tesla, but because I've enjoyed the car for such a long time, and I've kind of been looking at them for a very, very long time, I do have individual stocks. But I think if you are looking to perhaps explore investing in the company like Tesla, you have to do your homework. You really, really do. AI will be an overhaul in the IT industry. There will be an AI tool to consolidate the various software components and make the current issues semi-obsolete. Yeah, that's. I mean, they are working on AI components right now at Tesla. I mean, if you think about the autopilot program that they've been developing and they've been working on for years, that is effectively AI. So they've got their hands in that. But I don't think you're wrong. I think that the impact AI will have on some of these will be huge. I think when you think about the likes of Ford specifically, it's what they've struggled with is writing the software. They've never done that before. And so where Tesla's been doing this for 10 years, over a decade, definitely over a decade now, they've got the head start. So they're a little bit behind, and AI is going to help them speed up. But so will Tesla, or at least you hope they will anyway. Say cautious of taking company to accounting figures at face value, particularly as previous margins were probably projected to close to low interest rates and environment. That is true. But I mean, if you're going to be investing, the main thing you're going to be looking at really is, how are they growing earnings per share, because those are really the metrics that you're going to be looking at. Yes, it comes out in the numbers, but really you want to know that they're growing their earnings per share. That's probably the big number that you're looking at. But revenue is really important in these instances as well. It will do, yeah, 100%. But the point is, do they have the ability to adapt to the circumstances? I would argue maybe better than some. I would argue. Whether it will be enough though is anyone's guess, right? Marlon, what are you saying? What platform do you recommend to start investing stocks for your kids? Good question. So if it's for your kids, I'm trying to think of a nice friendly one that you can use. If you're looking at for your kids, then maybe junior ISAs, things like that are good, but you just need to be mindful. Your kids get ownership of the money in the junior ISA. So companies that will do some of the work for you, I think, will be the ones to go for. The likes of Wealthify, maybe. The likes of Money Farm, maybe. If you really wanted to get the cost down, then the likes of Vanguard as well, I think will probably be good options for you. So those are three. but they're very, very different. Vanguard's proper low cost. You got to pick it. You got to know what you're doing to a certain extent. With the likes of Wealthify and Money Farm, you open the account, do an onboarding questionnaire, they do the whole thing for you. So all you do is you send money. You haven't got to worry about the management. Ironically, they'll probably go and buy some Vanguard funds, which is the argument that people often have is like, well, if they're going to go buy Vanguard funds, why not just go buy a Vanguard fund, which you can, but you just need to know what you're picking within Vanguard because of the options and the choices that they have available. But I would definitely say, one of those three. And this is a good suggestion as well. Moneybox, Kids ISA, Junior ISA. So Moneybox also have one as well. And they're very, very similar to Wealthify and Money Farm. So that's where I would start and see where you go. And obviously, when you're doing the comparison, cost is going to be a thing that you need to pay attention to as well. Guys, I appreciate you for bearing with me on this because I know that I froze a number of times going through this. But I appreciate you. And if you did enjoy this, if you did get value from this, please make sure that you smash the like button. If you haven't subscribed already, maybe you're watching this because you're kind of new and you were interested in the topic, consider subscribing as well. We will get back to more investment content. That's really what this channel was built on through 2020 and 2021. But recently, obviously, with the economic environment, interest rates, so on and so forth, we've kind of deviated from that. We've gone into mortgages, interest rates, which we'll still continue to do. But I'm very, very keen to get back into the investment content specifically. There's a few things that I've got planned this month on that, including one on the 17th of September. We're going to be doing a live. We're going to be talking about what are the kind of trends that you should be watching out for if you're an investor right now. You know, you have earnings week around about the same time. So is earnings week a good time for you to spot trends? We're going to delve into that. It's going to be really, really interesting. So there's going to be more investment content coming. But yeah, like I said, please do smash the like button. The reason why I ask you to do that is because when this ends, other people who may find this interesting will be recommended this video by the YouTube algorithm. And that's the only reason why. It takes about a second or so for you to do, but it really, really, really does help to get other people to see it, and it helps the channel grow. We're at 42,381, so we're trying to get to 43,000 relatively quickly. But thank you, guys. I will be doing another live. Tomorrow's Wednesday, maybe not tomorrow, on Thursday. I made a huge decision recently, and I want to share that with you and some rationale, because it kind of speaks to a lot of stuff we've spoken about here on the channel over the past 6 months at least. And yeah, it wasn't a tough decision, but it was a very well thought through decision for me personally, and I want to share that with you. But I appreciate you for watching. Thank you so much for being here. I will catch you on Thursday evening for another live. I'll catch you in a bit. Cheers, guys. Sorry, guys. Still trying to catch up. Clicks are so behind. I think I'm about maybe 5 or 6 clicks away at the moment. I finally caught up. So.
Yeah, surprise, a little different than you used to. Dropping these bars on YouTube, knowledge I introduce you. We chasing this money like it's the prize, it's the voodoo. Fugazi, fugazi, it's just a lie we buying into. We need some cars on deck. Get the rollies, get the Moe, all the Mars on deck. We got the traders, got the picture with the Bentley in Dubai. Are you dripping in designer, looking fly? On the bombardier, sipping on the wine. Broke man, we broke. Where's the fun in being broke? Stocks and bonds get you yo. That's what I'm teaching these folks. I see that smoke, see them choke. Getting coke. While I'm researching these stocks, buying coke. 20 months on the channel, million people taking note. I got a warrant for Buffet. I'm coming for his vote.